Hey everyone, welcome. It is Thursday, April 25th, and this is our monthly reflect and reset session. So, this is where we get to come together and reflect on the past month and really look into how have I really moved the needle? How have I grown? How are things shifting for me? And look forward to the next month of May and say, where would I love to go from here? How would I love to be celebrated? What would I love to be celebrating? How would I love to be growing and shifting things in my life going forward? So, as we look into, and also for those of you who are watching the replay, please treat this as if it is alive because there's a different way that our mind engages with content if we believe it is happening right now versus, oh, I could watch it whenever, right? So, for those of you who are watching the replay, especially, um, grab a piece of paper, right? Take a look at the past 4 weeks. Feel free to open up your calendar if you so choose. Feel free to take a look at what did I spend my team resources doing? Time, energy, attention, and money, right? What did I spend my time doing? What did I spend my time on? What did I spend my energy doing and contributing to? What did I where did I place my attention this month? And how did I allocate my money this month? These four resources: time, energy, attention, and money, your team resources. They're yours to distribute and allocate as you so choose, as you desire, right? A lot of times it feels like it's not, they're already spoken for, right? When you wake up and you have another full day of hours, first of all, so much gratitude for waking up in the first place. Secondly, it can kind of feel sometimes that your hours in the day are already allocated, they're already spoken for, that you don't have any wiggle room there, you don't have any agency there. The same with your, what's calling for your attention and where energy is going to be spent. These are predetermined assumptions, right? That we often repeat our days with. What we really need to be doing is remembering that I chose to make my decisions with my time, energy, attention, and money this month in ways that I knew how to at my highest awareness. So this is not to beat ourselves up over, I should have spent my time differently, or oh, why did I spend my money on that thing, or I gave way too much of my time and attention to social media. Like, we're not here to beat ourselves up. We're here to say, you know what, I did the best that I could with the awareness that I had given my circumstances, right? It's not just an A plus B equals C, it's A plus B plus Y plus Q plus R resulted in me spending my time, energy, attention, and money in this way. So as you reflect over the month, we don't want to be using this as an opportunity to beat ourselves up. We're using this as an opportunity to develop a different relationship with ourselves and say, you know what, I did the best I could with the awareness I had given my circumstances. And this is how I spent my time, energy, attention, and money. So as you're reflecting over the month, I encourage you to refrain from the self criticism and say, this is data. This is data. Would I do this again? Do I want to, going forward, spend my time, energy, attention, money in these ways? Or will I choose to allocate them differently, to allocate my resources differently? Because remember, those are your resources first and foremost. So, like I said in the beginning, how it can sometimes feel like those resources are already spoken for, or that you don't have control over them. All of them are an active choice. Remember that all of them are an active choice, and you can choose alternatively. But right now, for the reflection piece of today's session, we just want to take a look at the month of April. And I know we still have 5 days left. Up until the 25th, the last 25 days of April, how did you spend your time, energy, attention, and money? What did you run up against? Meaning, what challenges did you come through? And what did you accomplish? What did you create, move the needle on, win at, right? We're looking for that sense of accomplishment and pride and ownership over, yeah, I had a hand in that happening. So it could be, I safely got my kid to 8 soccer practices this month. I safely, got my family to a vacation and back, and I helped to co-create some great memories together. It could be I landed a new job. It could be I submitted 4 different job applications, right? There's a special nuance in approaching celebration and recognition from a place of, I recognize the energy and effort that I put out. Regardless of the outcome, we separate the attempt and the effort from the outcome. A lot of times we only celebrate the outcomes. And therefore, all the hard work along the way, all of the investment that I made along the way was worth it. And that the things that don't pan out for us the way that we wanted them to, or the way that we would have preferred them to, we write off all of the effort and the attempts and the energy that we put in because the outcome, the 10%, didn't end up the way we wanted it to. And so all of this 90% is somehow useless and has no value. What I encourage you to do is to start separating the input from the output. Celebrate the input, celebrate all the effort that you put in, celebrate every single attempt, because it's the attempts that eventually lead to the outcome you want, right? And so it's not just that final piece of how you showed up in one interview that landed you the job that is worth celebrating. It's all of the practice, all of the resilience, all of the continued putting yourself out there, the learning how to communicate what value you bring, the learning how to read the room, the learning of how to understand what is the interviewer asking me. All of that work is part of that success. So just because if you had a short-term outcome that's not to your preference, don't discount everything that's leading up to it. We separate and celebrate the attempt from the result. If the result is what you wanted, if that's what you wanted to achieve, awesome, right? Celebrate those for sure. Those are the easy ones. Those are the easy ones to identify and to celebrate because they show themselves, right? And they come with celebration anyway. Oh my gosh, you got a new job. Congratulations. Oh my gosh, you were able to up level your income. You were able to, sign 3 new clients. Awesome. It is awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'm definitely not trying to downplay or diminish those accomplishments. But sometimes, often, they overshadow all of the journey that it took to get there. So as you were on the journey, celebrate everything that's happening in that space now. Develop that sense of accomplishment on a daily basis. We get to do this here on a monthly basis. But what I would really encourage you to do is examine this from what would it look like to celebrate, to recognize my progress, to recognize my accomplishments on a daily basis. Because that's the person who starts to know themselves as a person who provides a sense of value, provides a sense of worth, who knows what she brings to the table, instead of the person who only defines themselves by the latest or biggest win. Right? So many folks look back on their life and say, these highlights, these big wins are the things that I'm measuring the value of my life by, the value of who I am by, right? And this is especially what happens in the athlete community. We look at the brightest medals, the biggest accomplishments, the world records, the things where everyone else was shorter than us, that fell shorter than us. And we say this pinnacle is the measurement of what I bring, when really, one, immeasurable, first of all, your worth and your self-value. And we are sorely missing out on things that deserve recognition, celebration, a sense of pride and accomplishment. We miss out on those if we only look at the outcome. We must celebrate, how did you show up today? And that's going to be a sliding scale, right? Because some days, if you're really in it, just getting out and feeding yourself, getting out of bed and feeding yourself could be the win for the day, right? As you look back over the month of April, take a look at, where did I show up? How did I show up in a way where I felt really good, where I celebrated myself, or for I prioritized something that I really wanted, where I showed up in a way that I feel like I did good work, or I did a quality job of, let's say, supporting a friend, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be all work or vocational focused. As we reflect on the month of April, we show up, we look at who were we being? What version of you showed up and was taking the lead throughout your month? Because you're going to be going through the month of May, and you get to decide which version of you is steering, that vehicle. The month of May will come, and unless anything, crazy unexpected happens, May 31st is going to happen in your life. You will experience May 1st through May 31st. As we reflect on the previous month, you get to decide, how do you want to experience the next month? So the first level, what I like to do is create different levels. The first level of reflection is about the big flashy highlights. What are the big wins, right? The things where you're like, yeah, I did it. I moved the needle. I made progress here. I did this thing. Celebrate those. Write them down. The next level is, what kind of efforts did I make this month? In the month of April, did I show up consistently? Did I stretch myself? Did I practice? Right? Did I give it a shot? All of those, absolutely. We'll recognize those. You showed up. You didn't have to. You didn't have to. Okay? It's really important to recognize we don't have to show up to literally anything in this life. And you chose to. So even if it didn't go the way you wanted it to, that's okay. Right? So there's one of my clients is in the dating world right now. She's out there dating, looking for her mate, her partner. And we celebrate, how does she show up on the date? Even if this does not result in a long-term relationship, does not result in like a life partner situation, how did she show up on a date? Right? Even if it didn't make it to the next date, what can we celebrate? Because she didn't have to show up on that date. She didn't have to show up, and share things about herself and make an attempt to get to know the other person, right? All of it optional. All of it is optional. So showing up and deciding who you're going to be, putting in the effort, that's that next level of celebration, right? And here's where we get to take a look at, where are the celebrations in the negative outcomes? Negative outcomes. That's that third level. This can be kind of hard to excavate and to see, because we're so used to celebrating the level one, the high flashy, big wins, the obvious ones, the ones that basically celebrate themselves. They celebrate because of the nature of what we celebrate in this particular society, right? You did a great job on that presentation, or, oh my gosh, new client, awesome, yay. Celebrating, yes, absolutely. Not trying to make, light of those celebrations, but also we celebrate the effort and the attempt and the way that we show up. And we find things to celebrate in the things that did not end up the way we wanted them to. So it could be a loss. It could be something we're embarrassed about, something that we wish we would have shown up differently at. Maybe we were, feeling a little bit snippy and we snapped at someone we didn't want to snap at. Celebrate that which is yours to claim. And what I mean about that is, maybe in this example, maybe you snapped at someone and you're like, that was not my best work. That was not who I know myself to be. That's not who I want to be. Right? Celebrate any kind of attempt at, if there were amends that needed to be made, right? If you needed to apologize, if you needed to say you're sorry, if you needed to say, I didn't mean to show up as that, celebrate that action. The fact that you made amends, or the fact that you said, I'm sorry, or the fact that even if you didn't do any of those things, in this moment, if you're recognizing that's not how I want to be, that's not who I want to be, celebrate that awareness. That awareness may have just happened right now in this moment. Celebrate the fact that you see it. Because if you hadn't seen it, it'll happen again, right? We all know people who are very um, self-unaware, right? Who go around and just kind of like it's almost like a bull in a china shop situation. They go through life and they're making impressions on people and maybe hurting people's feelings or maybe being unkind to people or unfair to people, and they seem to be unfazed by it. They seem to say, "Well, that's just life, right? That's just me, right?" If you're recognizing I showed up and I was unkind or I was unfair or I was um, a little bit careless with this person's feelings or things or whatever it was, the way that we showed up just wasn't the way that we were at our best. The recognition, if there's nothing else, the recognition that that's not who I want to be and I want to do it different next time, that's worthy of celebration. Okay. Because it's a marker of the process of growth. In order for us to shift how we're being in the world, we have to recognize how we're being in the world, right? So we all do things, we're all human. We all do things imperfectly. We all do things that we are really proud of, and we all do things that we are maybe not so proud of, or have maybe it could be a sense of regret, a sense of disappointment, a sense of self judgment. We move from there because we're still here. And so we have to keep moving. We're still here, so we have to keep moving. You get to decide, how do I want to keep moving? And if you're being proactive about that, then that's worthy of celebration because not everyone is. A lot of people just cling to, this is the way I am, and people can just deal with it, right? Now I know they're trying to come from a place of not being ruffled by other people's opinions, but if they're doing so in a way where this is who I am, period, they're not open to growth. The fact that you're here, the fact that you're in this work, the fact that you even entertain this idea means you are growing. And what Brene Brown refers to as you are in the arena of life. So many people sit up in the stands and they watch people try and grow. They watch people through the growth process and they mock them and they judge them and they're throwing stones. And meanwhile, they're going through their life as I've reached the ceiling of who I am, my upper limit, and I don't want to grow anymore. Right? Yes, absolutely. We don't want to pay attention to those opinions. And we want to recognize, you know what? Even if I do it messily or imperfectly, or I did some things that I'm not so proud of along the way, I'm trying and I'm showing up and entering the arena of life on purpose and giving it my all every single day. That's worthy of celebration. So even if you did it messy, even if you realize, that didn't go so well, or God, that didn't come out the way I wanted it to at all, or oh my gosh, I hurt my friend's feelings and I didn't even realize, or I let this client down and I feel terrible about it. Where you go from here, seeing it, and where you go from here, that conversation with yourself, celebrate the heck out of that, for sure, for sure. To celebrate the markers of the process of growth. 100%. Exactly. Exactly. So this takes the idea of reflection over your past month from a different perspective. Because a lot of times it's, what did we do? What did we not do? And what do we do differently going forward? And it's very just a cold numbers game process, right? When really, this is about, how did you experience and show up for life and everything in it over this past month? It's a much deeper reflection process. It covers much more depth and breadth of the past month. For the past 25 days, it's April 25th today. What were you really proud of? And it might have been something like, you know what, I was really nervous to go to this doctor's appointment earlier this month, but I went, and I went in spite of my fear. That might seem easily written off, like you showed up for a doctor's appointment, like you're supposed to show up for a doctor's appointment, like, whoa, good for you. What's actually happening in a situation like that is that you're showing up in service and support of yourself, and in that example, your physical body as well, even when fear, one of the most primal deterrents, one of the most deeply wired in blockers, is telling you, no, don't do this. You showed up anyway. That is the mark of a person who, one, honors their commitments, who two, shows up in service of themselves, and who three, understands self-leadership from a place of not being led by fear. I hear the fear, and I will proceed with the decision that I am feeling aligned with. So it could vary. We all the time we have a tendency to diminish the small stuff because we think it's small stuff when actually it's huge stuff. If you practice recognizing yourself as a person who shows up for themselves and their needs and their desires, even when fear is really chirping up, you take that from not only a seemingly simple doctor's appointment situation of I showed up to my appointment even though I was scared, you take what actually happened and apply it to I applied for a job even though I was scared. I showed up on a first date even though I was scared. I told someone I was sorry for the way I behaved, but I said it to them even though I was scared of what they would say to me. Right? You take the same situation of what happened on a deeper level, you learn to own that, and then you apply it to other levels, and that changes the course of your life. So this whole, I showed up for a doctor's appointment even though I was scared, like, let's not diminish that. Look deeper, pull back the curtains. What actually happened there, right? You committed to something for yourself. When the time came, it was scary, and you demonstrated strong self-leadership, and you prioritized your needs and wants. Apply that to so many other situations, and what the quality of your life, woo, if we were to be cognizant of that, if we were to be actually truly conscious of it, of that's actually what's happening in this moment, that's what I'm going to practice happening in this thing that's coming up that I'm a little nervous about, unstoppable. You will be unstoppable. So it's very different, right? It's very different than your traditional, what did you do this past month and what are we celebrating? Like, oh, I applied for a job, or, I made a new friend, or, I bought a car or something. Yeah, celebrate those things. But man, there's so much more to celebrate, right? Yeah, Safari's here to celebrate too. So, where we go from here? We lean into how delicious and marvelous and grateful we are for the month of April. How delicious and marvelous April was, and how grateful we are for it. I mean, we are also delicious and marvelous, but you know what I meant. And then we shift to take a look at the month of May, right? For those of us who are in the Northern Hemisphere, spring is around the corner. Spring might be here for some of you. It's a season of newness. It's a season of rebirth. It's a season of blooming, right? So as you look toward this next month, between now and May 31st, what would you love to experience? What would you love to practice? So maybe it's kind of like that doctor's appointment example, where maybe you look forward to practicing self-leadership. You look forward to practicing acknowledging fear, but not letting it take the wheel, not letting it be the leader. Maybe you look forward to practicing putting yourself out there more often because you know that you have a different relationship with fear now. Maybe you look forward to taking a dream off the shelf that's been on there for too long. Lean into what you would love the experience of May to look like and to feel like. So For those of you who are in a season of recalibration, essentially, identify the emotions you would love to become more normal and familiar to you. So, for those of you who are used to a sense of stress, a sense of frustration, maybe a sense of resentment or disappointment, if those are normal for you in that I feel those emotions pretty regularly, like several times a week, maybe every day, you can decide what you would love to normalize in the month of May instead. Because also springtime is such a beautiful, beautiful season and opportunity for healing and for resetting. So you can declare that in the month of May, I'm recalibrating my systems. I'm renormalizing my emotions to those I would love to experience instead of the ones I was experiencing in April. You get to choose what you feel. You get to choose what you're thinking because our thoughts are what dictate our emotions. And our emotions dictate what actions we take, what ideas we are open to, how we take those actions. And if we reverse engineer it, it all comes back to our thoughts, right? What am I choosing to think and to focus my attention on this month so that I can feel these kinds of emotions? Maybe I want to feel joy. Maybe you want to feel alive, a sense of vitality. Maybe it's a sense of productivity and saying, oh, I'm creating things. I'm moving the needle on things. And I feel so good about it. And you're redefining your relationship with work instead of one of hustle and urgency and everything is a fire or everything needs to be done today. Maybe you want to normalize feelings of peace and completeness and productivity from a different angle was work, right? Maybe you're looking to redesign your relationship with yourself. You're saying, you know what, I would love to be celebrating a relationship where I am really gentle to myself, or I'm really loving toward myself, or I'm really fun toward myself. You get to decide all of this. These are choices that you get to make and only you can make, right? You are going to have, for example, an emotional experience with life, personally, professionally, socially, everything. You will have those things over the course of May. Let's be intentional about how you would like those things to go, right? You will have a relationship with yourself this month because you are here, you exist, you have a body, you have a mind, you have a soul, you relate to all of those things. You might be used to relating to them in a particular way. Maybe you related to them in a particular way in the month of April, and you would love to relate to them differently in May. You get to decide this. A lot of times we look at the upcoming month and we go straight to, let's hit these goals, right? I'm going to sign these clients, I'm going to make this money, I'm going to apply for all these different jobs, I'm going to go out on 5 different dates. The numbers are important. Sorry, I have like cat fur. One cuddle with Safari. It's like, I am a cat now. There's so much fur everywhere. It is spring is also the season of cats shedding their winter coats. So we're in that season over here at my house. We so quickly go to what are the goals that I want to hit for this coming month. Goals are important, but get to the goals after you've talked about what kind of experience would I love to have next month. Because goals are simply metrics of what are you changing? What are you doing? What are you growing toward? What actions are you taking? But the actions are a means to an end. What end are you trying to get to? A richer, more exciting, more fulfilling version of life? Okay, that's going to inform the actions we take. And that's going to inform what goals we set. Too often we kick into the goals and we're too busy like throwing the big numbers on the board and throwing these big dreams on the board or big accomplishments that we want to hit on the board without saying, wait a minute, like what is this all for? without the big picture in mind. And next thing you know, what happens to so many people is now they've been so goal oriented and do, and drive, that they haven't picked their head up in years to take a look at the landscape and say, do I like where I'm at? Is this where I want to be? Both metaphorically and physically. So many people wake up in the middle of their careers or towards the end of their careers and they're saying, how did I get here? How did I let this happen? And it's simple. They're on autopilot and they just followed the next goal and the next goal and the next goal. Oh, I am now, senior lead here. I should go for trying to get to director level. Why? Do you want that? Do you love the life of a director for whatever that line of work is? Or, oh, I got laid off in this industry, therefore I should start applying for jobs in the same industry. And the goal should be to get the same job at a different place or to get the next promoted level on this at the same in the same work in the same industry because A plus B equals C. And so I have to keep going according to the formula. Pause. That's what these things, this work is all about. To reconsider, wait a minute, is this where I want to be? And is this where I want to go? Because at the end of every month, you get to decide for this next month, where do I want to be headed? What do I want to experience? What do I want to include or now exclude from my life? Right? Who do I want to experience more of? Talking about other people and yourself. What part of me do I want to experience more of this life, this month? Right? What kinds of experiences would I love to get more familiar with? Both actual physical experiences, but also emotional. What kind of emotional experiences would you love to get more familiar with? Would you love to normalize for yourself? Right? You get to make all of these decisions. Now, it can kind of feel like you're kind of going all over the place with thinking about where do I want to go. But this is why it's so important and so helpful to have a really clear vision of the life that you want. And that takes time and that takes soul searching. So, wherever you are in that process is exactly where you're supposed to be. And just know that eventually you get to arrive at a version of that image, of that vision of your dream life that will become so crystal clear that it becomes the thing that you come home to at the end of every day, the thing that you come home to at the end of every month, the thing that becomes your compass in deciding where do we go from here? What are our next steps toward that dream life? So if this is something that you struggle with, let me know, of course, because visioning is actually surprisingly hard for most people. Not surprisingly, it is hard for most people, and it is not surprising because the big question: what would you like? Life. What would you love? What kind of life would you love to be experiencing? And because our lives are so complex and so rich and they're so multidimensional, that it's a big question. It's simplistic in its structure and it is so complex in its answer and exploration, right? So I entertain, lean in, like you gotta, this is something that where you have to just listen in and really explore. For me, what is it that's really calling for my attention? That's really asking to be addressed. It could be your vocation, what's happening with work, at work, the kind of work that you do, the kind of people you work with, etc. It could be vocation, could be relationships, it could be your finances, it could be the way that you relate with time, so time and money. It could be your personal relationships, intimate, social, family, friends. Something we were overdue for a little emoji. And you get to decide what's really where I want to place my focus this month What would I love to move toward, evolve toward, right? At the end, the big question I love in these settings are on May 31st. What would you love to be celebrating? Right? Because we have those three levels of celebration, the big, flashy, obvious wins, right? Awesome. The attempt and the effort that you put out in the pursuit of something, your goals, your vision, etc. And then the wins that are hidden in the losses. So, what would you love that conversation to be like for you on May 31st? When we get together, actually, for May 30th is when we're going to do this session again. So, Thursday the 30th, when I ask you those questions, what would you love to be writing down as your answer? Okay, so food for thought. Have fun with that. Mull it over. Give it the time to breathe. Give it the time to really germinate. Go through those three levels of celebrations, of recognitions, because that's the juiciest way that we can reflect on the past month, right? And also, something worth noting is that something you might be celebrating is that I learned this thing. I gained more experience with this lesson. So we're talking about the wins. We're also talking about the lessons. It's no losses. We don't lose. We keep showing up. The only way to lose is to stop showing up, right? We have the wins, we have the lessons, we have the attempts, and we have the reflections and realizations and awareness that I don't want to do that again going forward. I don't want to do this in this way. I will make amends on this. And you get to have full carte blanche around what would you love to be celebrating next month? What lessons would you love to have learned? What would you love to have become more consistent or masterful in? What would you love to have greater clarity around? What emotions would you love to be normal for you to experience next month? What kind of thoughts do you want on automatic in your mind? Like, it is so automatic for me to think X, Y, and Z about people, about the world, about my work, about myself, about politics, about whatever, about money. What would you love to be normalized when it comes to your thoughts? That's where that and the emotional piece are actually where I would invite you to spend the most energy and attention, because it's the emotions and the thoughts that you're experiencing that will shift everything. They're the origin point of all of the wins that we celebrate. They're the origin point of all of the outgoing actions that you take. They're the origin point of all of the results that you create and receive. So if you're going to allocate and prioritize your energy and time and attention in any of these areas that we talked about today, focus it specifically on what kind of thoughts would I love to normalize, and what kind of emotions would I love to normalize for myself in the next 31 days. All right, everyone, thank you so much for being here. This is a public training that we do every month, the last Thursday of the month typically. So you're welcome to share this with your community. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing what kind of hearing what kind of May. I was trying to say May and month at the same time. My words are getting very excited. Really excited to hear what kind of May you experience next month. All right, so much gratitude for you. I will talk to you soon. I'll see you online.